Hello, I'm Chelsea. I also refer to myself as the money whisperer because I've been studying money for a really long time. Came into it by accident, stumbled across it in college, had no idea what it was. I ran with it and I realized probably like 5 years into my career that this money thing is like a really big deal and schools aren't teaching it to us and everybody needs it. So what I do now is really coach people and help them manage their money and get some education and some perspective around it.
Well, the big thing for us, I mean, like with all the people with the NIL deals, all that you hear about this stuff all the time now. I know they were talking about a kid around here who plays basketball. He just signed for 900,000 for his first season. And I'm like, what does a kid do with $900,000 who's probably never even worked at McDonald's? Like all of a
Right.
sudden, like what does that happen? So I think it's a big thing with stuff like that with a lot of kids, and a lot of kids are moving around schools chasing money. And so we thought it would be a good idea to bring you on and enlighten us and our audience a little bit about the money thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I really love this conversation because I was an athlete, so I mean, I get it a little bit. And in doing my little bit of research before this, one of the things that kept popping up was one of the particular struggles that with athletes and money is that usually they come upon it like really quickly. Like it happens all of the sudden, they have it, they have all of these aspirations, all of these ideas about what they should do with it based on what they see, because that's what we all go off of. Right, is what we see other people doing with it because again, nobody's formally teaching us how to do it or when to do what. We kind of just see this idea of the cars and the house and a lot of athletes have really good intentions of like take care of their mothers or their family or their parents. So I think it's a really important topic and especially for athletes and especially at such a young age. I know they're trying to get it on a college level now where collegiate athletes are looking to get paid here soon too, hopefully. So that was definitely one of the things, one of the struggles that it comes very quickly. And so I think some important things for athletes to really think about even before they get to that point, because it's always about planning 3 steps ahead, right? And I can relate money to being an athlete because track and field taught me the consistency and the discipline that I and anybody needs to be able to manage their money properly, right? Usain Bolt, I love his quote. He said, I trained for 8 years for a 9-second race. Like 8 years of showing up every single day in the moment and doing the thing so that down that road, he had 9 seconds to make it happen. And I think that's so powerful. And money is the same exact way because it's really easy to, go and do the quick, fast thing. All of us are fighting instant gratification in life with money. And it's something that's been pushed on us from a very young age. Schools don't teach us about college, but sure enough, you will get a credit card application in the mail when you're 18. And what is that pushing? Instant gratification, buying things we maybe can't really afford. And so I think planning 3 steps ahead is really important and thinking about what is it that you want to do with your money and how much is that actually going to cost you and what's going to be coming out of that in taxes.
Well, nobody thinks of that.
At all.
And yeah, so that's like a big deal. And then the other part of that is with people coming out of high school getting paid that amount of money. Put yourself, your senior season.
Wouldn't
if
be
somebody's
here.
if somebody's going to give you that type of money, would it have made it very far?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows our relationship. I I'm not dating myself, but I was
On
Chelsea's
all
coach
those years.
in
On them
high school
all.
a lot of years ago. But I was her coach in high school. We had a dynamic team that did a lot of good things and shocked a lot of people. But I'm just saying, and look at her now. She's still doing things that's shocking people. But I'm saying I'm thinking back to your team in particular. I wouldn't have given your team $100 when you graduated and be like, they're going to do the right thing with that. I mean, I'm just so that's why I was like, I wanted you on because I look at a lot of these kids and just and they didn't have all this. You guys didn't have all the stuff that they had. Like, there was no smartphones back then. It wasn't like, you constantly getting images of oh, the big gold chains or the fancy cars, or you didn't have all of that type of stuff. And you didn't have, I mean, I would say it's the music, but it's a lot of influences, right? We didn't have all of those influences. So now it seems like it's set up where you give these young, impressionable minds a lot of money and they're already under the influence of something that's going to cause them to give it away, which basically is what they do. A lot of times they just throw it away. They burn it up on whatever, and they don't see the value in much of anything.
So Chelsea, with that being said, and you talked about athletes not knowing they get this large lump sum of money, don't know what to do, and you talked about the proactive approach, and even coach, like there are a lot of things, like Coach Ware said, where their opportunity and access to money, even more so now early on, can create things that cause them to lose the money or mismanage. So speaking about athletes now, even in high school, what would you say are things that could help, that are like kind of cost effective to best educate not only the athlete but also their parents, right? Because in a lot of cases, their parent will be a part of supporting the first to go to X, or maybe not even. So, what are some things that athletes as well as parents can kind of work through or seek out to help educate themselves about finances and money?
I love that you bring the parents into it because nobody taught them either. And the best thing that someone in that position can do is get professional help. Seek a financial advisor that's fee-based, not commission-based, that will help you figure out and give you a picture of what that's going to look like. Because another of the unique struggles that athletes face, or like a really important thing that you need to understand, is the average career of a professional athlete is not as long as a career if you're going out into the working force, right? What is it, like maybe 4 to 6 years on average, you're in peak performance mode where you can continue generating money off of your craft, off of your sport. And so that money is only going to go so far, right? And so I know that there are consultants out there. There's a show on Netflix. I wish I could remember the name, but he actually had one of the Bears football players on the show who was kind of in this situation, and he advised him through it. And by working with someone who's familiar with the landscape of sports and what you can do, because I mean, 3 steps ahead, right? To continue making money after your body is no longer able to physically perform at that level, you have options even after that. And so work with somebody who knows what those options are, because money is not cookie cutter. There is no one way to wealth that's going to work for everybody, and it needs to work for you and your interests and what your goals are. And everybody's idea of financial freedom or wealth has a different dollar sign. So find a professional who knows the landscape.
How would an athlete or even their parents navigate where it's just like they know that, they have a freshman in high school? And so I know you mentioned fee-based versus commission, but again, how do we plant the seed as coaches, as village, as mentors, plant the seed with parents and athletes to let them know how important financial planning is and what that looks like for their kind of trajectory, right? Where they may say, well, I don't think we need to know about finances. I know how to do XYZ until it smacks them. So are there even things that they could do? Search, are there books, are there different things that they could seek out? Yeah, programming that they could seek out to kind of, again, plant the seed, right? Because they're not even thinking to seek out any type of financial advisor at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really good point. A couple of books that come to mind are Rich Kids by Tom Corley. That's an amazing book. And in that book, one of my favorite things in there is it has a visual chart of the habits of those that are wealthy and the habits of those that are considered in poverty. And so it shows you by the way, 95% of them have nothing to do with money. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for coaches and these types of programs to introduce financial literacy and the importance of learning how to manage your money at a young age, because you're already in a position of mentorship, right? And unfortunately there's no kind of uniform program. I mean, that was one of my goals at one point, and probably still will be, to get some sort of an education program in place for high schoolers, maybe even for middle schoolers, where we can offer these workshops to athletes. So if you do some research and you can't find a local advisor who can come in and talk about budgeting, how to earn more money, the different ways that we can earn money, how to save, how to invest, the power of compounding interest. You know, if you can find somebody in your local area to come in and even do a workshop for your team for these programs, I mean, that would be amazing.
Those are great suggestions. I love the workshop idea and aspect.
Right.
Yeah. And the other book, I forgot to mention, the second book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which is more on a mindset basis than a technical. But I mean, the truth of the matter is money is 90% mindset. And so, you know, that's probably another good thing to talk about is depending on how you're living, right? Lower class, middle class, upper class, there's a lot that goes into your money mindset. And because our parents weren't taught, sometimes they're teaching us things that aren't going to serve us. And I used to have a workshop where I would teach parents about money specifically so that they can start installing the right beliefs into their children. And that gets even different when you get down to race. I mean, we can't talk about money and men versus women. We have to bring in race to it. Everybody has a different history with money, and the things that we've taken on throughout that history are still showing up today. And it takes awareness and intentionality to kind of break that line of thinking.
I like that. I never heard of the Rich Kids book.
Yeah,
But
I'm writing on.
I'll be on Amazon tonight.
Yeah, right. Look, I'm writing it down.
Tell my daughter, hey, I got something for you. Here you go.
Right. Here you
It's
Because
go.
I know
great and a quick read. It's really good and an easy read.
Yeah, oh, she'll love it. Because there's a lot of, like, I've gotten her workbooks before and she always complains about them. But I mean, it's a nice setup in terms of learning about money, investing, what you should do with it. And I've been concerned just because there's so much money at play. And then I look at the landscape of college athletics, particularly football, because I played college football, right? And so you have kids who are going from one team to another just for, they got bought, right? I played great last season. X school offered me $100,000 more than the other school I'm going. And it's like, I think there's some things that are missing there in terms of like, just if you could be at that school and you had a plan for the money you already had, would it be worth disrupting your life, building the relationships that you could build, and all those different things that come from the stability of being at a place several years in a row, versus I'm just going to chase the money because I want to blow the money or do this big thing, or I want to buy this big car. It's like, how does that serve you long term? How does that set your family up for any type of generational growth, generational stability, that type of thing? So I thought that was unique. And with what you do, you work with quite a few people in money, in particular women. And the fact we coach women. So, that's kind of in our lane in terms of what's going to happen there. But we're always looking for ways to kind of help this whole generation who's all about chasing the bag, as they call it,
Which is another form of instant gratification.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just in how we spend, it's in how we earn. And it is always and never about the money. I don't know if you've seen the movie about Serena Williams and her dad, King Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to me how many deals he was like, nope, like we don't have to say yes to everything just because of the money.
Right.
Yeah. And it's good. It's going back to having parents or your village or whoever is helping the child be the voice of reason, right? But how do we educate those to understand you don't have to take the first thing,
right?
Walking. You can negotiate. And what does that look like from a financial planning standpoint?
But like you said, a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of parents don't know. And so they're in it too, like, oh, they're gonna pay you X amount, go do this and do that. And I just think it's too big of a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because I know I stayed at the same university the whole time.
Whole time.
Right.
It wasn't a choice.
Right.
Like, figure it out.
Yeah, but the relationships you built there, because you went through struggle together, you went through hardships together, you went through celebrations together. You had all these different things connected to it. And that helped develop you as an adult, as a person out in the workforce. I mean, we've had setbacks, right? So how do you deal with the setbacks? And I don't think they get the opportunity to have that. It's like, I want to be happy. and they
Right.
don't even know what happy is, and they think happy is money, when you could really be in a much better situation for the long haul if you manage what you have right and then move from there. And one of the things I was talking to, I spoke to an insurance agent yesterday, and we were talking about like they have like insurance now for like athletes,
Oh,
like
wow.
that if you go, well, it's not like a full blown. I mean, I'm sure somebody will have this in a little bit, like you can insure your legs for whatever. I mean, they've always had it
Right.
for professionals, but for these high school kids now, I'm pretty sure they're going to bring it to the high school level because that means, you college scholarship and it means you could be earning money. So I see that coming. I don't know about insurance companies, but anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a certain policy. Like if your kid gets injured and you take them to the emergency room, they'll pay you back. Like it's a limit to what they'll pay you for actually that visit, which I thought was interesting. But that's their way of creeping into this business, right? So they're creeping into these athletes are worth something. So let's get our hands in that mix, however we can get it into it. And then it'll probably just grow from there. But as an investment, what do you see financially? How wise is it as an athlete to make that investment in an insurance policy, do you think?
Mm.
Well, your body is your mode of making money, and taking care of it is just as important as showing up to practice your craft. And I mean, again, you think about it, if something was to happen to you and you were no longer able to perform, you need to have a backup plan. So, I mean, sure, the insurance companies are coming in with intention. They're everywhere with intention, right? But I think there's also kind of like a safety net to that too. I mean, it's kind of like your house insurance, right? We have it, and if something detrimental happens, it doesn't have to ruin our finances. It's there for a reason.
Mhm.
So it sounds like that would be a good option. It's a good, part of the portfolio to have that, as well as other investments, but you have to protect your investments, which is where all this financial literacy stuff comes into play.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And investments are important. There's only a few ways to get to wealth in terms of, a job, a business, or passive income. And investments hold huge power in compounding interest, and getting into the habit of doing that now when you're in high school, when you're so young. I mean, you calculate that math with whatever financial advisor you go to, and it's a habit to start forming now, because everything in money is habits. Everything underlying in your money story has to do with your habits related to money and not related to money. So again, like, athletes are a really cool group of people to talk to, because for the most part, they have their habits down. We know what it is to have a habit and to show up when we don't feel like doing it. Like, we have the discipline and the skills to be able to take this money and build something meaningful with it, because it's not just about the cars and the clothes and all of those things. All you have to do is type in Google, how many wealthy people have, sorry to say, committed suicide. Like, money does not bring you happiness. It's the time that you're buying with that money and the things that you do with that time.
Mhm. Facts on facts.
Yeah. Coach, I know you have any other questions? You look like you're thinking over
Ye-
there.
Yeah, again, I'm just going back to like the NIL deals and how we can continue to prepare athletes. I know on the one hand, like I think workshops and things like that, maybe even including parents in that would be an important thing to incorporate. But how do you think the financial landscape, like where it's headed as far as athletes and being able to get NIL deals? Where do you think the financial trajectory is going? Because athletes now have access to a lot of money earlier on than before.
I mean, this country in particular has always invested heavily in sports. It's an incredibly profitable thing here and in other countries. And so I think it's great that high school students have that opportunity, because if we're being fair, it's harder to work a job and earn money when you're so committed to your craft, to your sport. So I think it's great. And I would imagine it would keep going, because the funnel wants to nurture these athletes. Right. And my biggest piece of advice to someone that young who started to get things like NILs is get yourself into the habit of saving 20% at least. Just now, while you can, get used to every time you get money, you put some away. You practice that patience. Just like in your sport, you're working every day to be patient, put it aside every single time, and just be intentional with how you spend the rest. And yes, have fun with it. Like, what's the point if we can't have fun? Like, yes, I'm not Dave Ramseying you over here and telling you not to go out and eat. Have fun with your money on purpose, but also be smart. and, be a steward of your money.
Yeah, I think it's important to learn the energy relationship with money. Like I may be going a little too far for this, but I'll just say I'm with you on that. And because they have to come in, it's a lot that comes into play. You talk about taxes and all the other stuff and things that they just really have to handle, and they may not be ready for. But yeah,
Yeah. I got a book for that too. If you guys are readers, The Soul of Money. So good.
add that one to the
A lot
list
of books. Yeah.
It's
because
amazing.
we like to help out where we can in all aspects, because part of what we do with the podcast is we're highlighting athletes, we're highlighting coaches, and we're looking at all the different resources that can help them out. So there's a lot of kids who we interviewed who are extremely talented. They still have some years to go, and there are some who are on their way to college, so they're going to be approached by these deals, so they may need to know what's going to be in it for them, what's going to be good. So yeah, cool.
Awesome. Speaking of workshops, we'll definitely have to be in touch to see how we can start to plant those seeds for our athletes, not only our high school team, but also club.
Yeah.
Coaches would be interested
Then
in
maybe
learning.
we'll snatch you up and bring you on over here.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say I've dipped my toes into it before, and I've got a few things in the works now. Like I'm writing a book this year that's going to take up a lot of my time and attention. But I mean, I would love to get into the realm of helping people like athletes just get that initial scope of what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? So off the recording, if you
Yes.
guys see any opportunities, I'm open to, seeing how I can help.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Well, Chelsea, are there any last words you'd like to share with the audience? Anything they should be aware of? Any more books that they should be looking at? Anything they should look out for coming from you? Social media they could follow you on?
Yeah, let's take small steps, right? We've got a couple of really good books, a few things to consider for the kids and the parents, and you're welcome to follow me at the Money Whisper on Instagram.
Nice.
Sounds good. Well, Chelsea, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It was so
Yeah.
nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.